Hello and good morning and welcome back to New Day here on TV3. Still a Monday morning and hopefully by now you've woken up and felt some of the sunshine as well. Now today is a very special day because I get to be surrounded by some of the greats in the armed forces, and if you see us here on TV3 then you know that we've been in support of it from the very beginning. We're talking about Remembrance Day, and that's why we're wearing our poppies. Now November marks the centenary celebration of World War I. This year's Remembrance Day, also known as Poppy Day, is thus very special. On Sunday, for instance, several events took place across many Commonwealth countries to mark Remembrance Day ahead of November the 11th. The day is used to reflect and remember members of the armed forces who died in the line of duty to ensure world peace for both you and I. In Ghana, members of the Veterans Administration, no longer the association, are not being left out. With me in the studio this morning, I have Lieutenant Colonel Rashid Salufo, retired, and also Colonel Chris Mutuko, retired, who's also the Executive Director of the Veterans Administration. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, tomorrow is Remembrance Day, but we brought you in here to shed some more light on why we actually celebrate this particular day. We've just said, in our intro, is to remember those who fell in the line of duty and ensured world peace for us all. What would be your definition of Remembrance Day?
Thank you. First of all, good morning to fellow countrymen and women and all persons resident in the Republic of Ghana. And also, I want to thank the management of TV3 for giving us this opportunity to talk about something which is dear to all of us, just something to remind us about the need to live in peace with one another, and then the horrors of conflict. As you said, the Remembrance Day is just like an act of remembering the dead. You remember the dead, what led to their death, so that the mistakes that were made, which brought about the First World War, will not occur again. It is true that the end of the First World War did not prevent the Second World War from breaking out. But despite all conflicts that we are not yet engaged in a Third World War. So as we celebrate the Remembrance Day tomorrow, we want to remind ourselves that the best way to resolve conflicts is through dialogue and not resort to arms.
Colonel Salufo, what would be your take on Remembrance Day? How would you define it?
Yes, it is a day that denotes the hour, the day, and the month that the Second World War came to an end.
11th.
Yes. And it is an opportunity to commemorate those who have given up their lives for us. Mm-hmm. We should not just forget about them, we should remember the sacrifices they have made so that we will be able to live in peace. Whether it has been achieved or not is questionable.
Okay, well that's a good one. But this is why we wear our poppies, isn't it? So that we can also, create some attention, and so people know exactly what we are trying to remember as well. You had some events over the weekend. Tell us a little bit about that. You said there was a float on Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah. When that went through Accra, was that correct?
Yeah, we went through the principal street of Accra and ended up at. Where was that?
Our offices near
the VAG. Yeah.
Okay. And 29th, you had a live band press conference.
We had a band concert. It's a military event. In fact, it's a mass wash for all citizens. And then we are in talks with the military authorities. Maybe one day they will have to organize one at the military, the Independence Square, for all Ghanaians to see. It's a very colorful event and a rendition of local and foreign martial music, and it's good. And then we did that one to actually launch the appeal, the Poppy appeal.
Okay.
And so that is what happened on the 29th of.
Okay. So tell me a little about the Veterans Administration at the moment. How is it that you are helping the veterans? How is it that we're helping the families of these people who have fallen in the line of duty?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, let me again pay tribute to the memory of our former heads of state who are no longer with us. And then a big thank you to the former heads of state who are still living. And then a former big thank you to the current head of state. I'm saying this because after the First World War, soldiers were demobilized. And then after the Second World War, others were also demobilized. They were just not, they were not integrated into the Gold Coast Army. At that time, we didn't have Navy and Air Force. They were not integrated in the Gold Coast Army. So they formed associations. The British had just formed the British Legion. So if you go across country, you see several Legion villages. And it was some of these agitations for better conditions for the war veterans that led to the incident in which Sergeant Ajete, Corporal Tipo, and then Private Lante were killed, and which also contributed significantly to our attaining independence. Now, the Gold Coast Legion Act was passed. It became the Ghana Legion when we attained independence. So we had a Legion which transformed into Veterans Association. In 1974, the Ghana Legion Decree was passed. We still retain the association. You know, by association, it is something that you have to voluntarily belong to. But over the years, successive governments were trying to find out how they will support the veterans and then their widows. Mm-hmm. So, for a 10-year period before 2012, the Veterans Administration Bill, was being debated, and then it was it was introduced in Parliament in 2010, and then it passed in May 2012 as the Veterans Administration Act 844. So with that, the Veteran Administration became the body to administer all veterans. All veterans here now are those who have served in the Gold Coast Regiment and the Ghana Armed Forces and have been honorably released. Right. So the president appoints the executive director, and then they have a governing board, and the structures are, so Veterans Administration is now an entity within the public service, right? And then to look after the veterans. There are many things that are done to attend to their welfare. We maintain Legion villages where those with known relatives reside, and then chasing after their pensions. Sometimes, because of the ranks that we wear, it confuses people in the Accountant General Department. For example, he is a lieutenant colonel. Mm-hmm. You see a lance corporal. They can even mistake him for a lance corporal and pay him the pension that is. So we correct amount of this. We
so
correct some of
things
this.
That need to be looked at.
Yeah. So these are some of the things that we do.
Okay, very interesting. Colonel Salifu, what would your personal opinion be about the armed forces at the moment? Do you think that we're doing everything possible to ensure that the people that we're putting in the forefront to actually protect us are going to be protected when they come out as well? Same thing that we're talking about, how we're trying to take care of the veterans.
Yes. Granted that resources are limited, but there are certain things that you must consider as priority areas. And if people have put their lives on the line to protect the rest of us, it behoves on us that when eventually they retire, they should live a comfortable life. And so the armed forces working hand in hand with VAG, the Veteran Administration, to see how best they can make life worth living after the service for the veterans. So I will say that they are doing well so far.
Okay. Yeah. Another thing that you mentioned just now was pensions, and I know it's a little bit off the topic, but you saw what happened last week in the general public. We had mass strikes because of these pension schemes. Is this going to affect the way the armed forces and the pensions run at all? Because obviously you are somewhat civil servants.
No, it will not affect. You realize that we don't go on strike, not because we don't have issues or we don't have challenges, but the channel of communication within our system is better than obtains in the civil sector. Okay. Because in the armed forces there are debates, there are interviews, so the opportunity is always there for us to talk and then explain to them. For example, the veterans, they have issues with pension, and then recently when the COLA was announced, it did not affect pensioners.
Okay.
But we explained to them that COLA is for working people, and it is something they can legitimately demonstrate against if they were not informed that this is the situation. Right. But it looks like they are not satisfied with what we are doing. But we told them that with the current law, Act 844, it has put the structures in place. The law will not work by itself. Right. We have to work it. We also want to do something that we can contribute to the development of Ghana. Yeah. Because if you go across the country, we have vast property that we can turn into anything. Yes. So we want to do something which the veterans themselves, those who are active, can. For now, the people who are not very active, who cannot do anything, above 80 years old, they number about 460 plus or minus. So those people, they are our direct responsibility. Yeah. Those who are capable of working, we want to get them doing something. One thing I want to add is that in the military, when we talk about somebody being on pension, strictly you can be 45 years old and be on pension. Okay. Because with the men, they do 25 years, then they retire. Okay. So if you entered at the age of 20 you can be on 45 years. Yes. If you are an officer, if you were not to the rank of brigadier general, you retire before the age of 60. Wow. That's why you see us sitting down here retired, even though we are not
very young. Yes, still.
Yeah, so we are very young veterans. So it is like that. So by the time we retire, we still have active working life.
Yeah, I understand.
So the law has given provision for us to at least let some people who are strong enough
can go back to work.
Because they cannot be in public.
So what's going to be taking place tomorrow? Let's deal with that now. Tomorrow is Remembrance Day, 11/11.
Yeah, tomorrow is aptly what we call the Poppy Day. The story of the poppy has been told several times. The poppy is a flower which grows not in our part of the world, but we also have our version which we call the cemetery flowers. It's just one for remembrance, remembering the dead. It happened that in the First World War in 1915, a Canadian doctor saw a colleague died, and he wrote a poem in Flanders Fields. And this later on, people over the year in the 1920s, they adopted the poppy as one for remembrance. So tomorrow we'll be having a memorial at the Christabel War Memorial Cemetery. It's just next to in fact, it's almost together with the military cemetery, opposite the stadium and conference center area there. We'll have that one. The British High Commission is hosting a cross-section of the veterans. The British High Commissioner is hosting a cross-section of the veterans at his residence. We will also host our veterans in the Greater Accra in our regional office at opposite the AMA and the court buildings. And then it will be replicated in all the regions. So the regional coordinated councils will organize in conjunction with the armed forces and the veterans. And then wreaths will be laid. And then prayers will be said for the dead. But the crucial thing is that everybody should be able to wear a poppy tomorrow. If you are in the regions, we have regional offices all over. In Accra, we have sent poppies to all over the place. And I have written a series of letters to corporate Ghana to assist the veterans in what we are doing. And in fact, I've been getting encouraging results. And then I only encourage all of us. The poppy has no fixed price. You can be 1 cedi, 1 million, anything, just like a church donation.
You like the 1
million? Yeah. So we like the 1 million part. Right? It is like whatever is saying. The mere fact that you are wearing it, you are also remembering somebody who sacrificed for you, and the fact that war should never be part of us again. We want peace to develop.
Yes.
So that's what we are going to do tomorrow. Right. But the celebration doesn't end. It's a centenary celebration, so it continues.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming in, the both of you. I've been sitting with Lieutenant Colonel Rashid Salafu, retired, and also Colonel Chris Nutako, retired. He's Executive Director of the Veteran Administration as well. Thank you so much for coming in and reminding us why we should remember also. Thank you.